So as I was saying today, the two bricks at the front of the mat block can be wherever you want it to be, really, as long as it's within reach. And I'm going to start in hero's pose. So I'm actually going to take one of my bricks and just place that underneath my sitting bones. I know that's the right height for me, but you just adjust accordingly. Remember, when you come into these poses, sometimes the muscles and the joints are a bit cold, so you want to take a little bit of care with them. If they're overstretching, it's sort of making you grit your teeth and your eyes are wincing a little bit, that's usually an indicator that you haven't quite got to that comfortable place. But if you're able to sit on something, on the sitting bones, and then just bring the knees together so the thighs internally rotate a little bit, and have the heels out outside the hips, toes pointing back, and then we're just sitting up tall and taking a few nice easy breaths and letting the shoulders relax back. Hopefully starting to notice a little bit of a change in the texture of the calf muscles, starting to get just a little softer, a little more pliable. Now bring the fingers to the floor and lift ourselves up just a little bit. And to bring the heels more underneath the sitting bones and tuck the toes underneath so we can sit back onto the heels, so we get a bit of a stretch into that plantar fascia area. So tucking the toes under, spending a little time to get them in the right place. You can keep the hands on the floor and just push gently back with the hands, or you can bring the hands right onto the thighs, your choice. Again, it's about comfort. So if you've come up high because you think more is better, I would suggest going the other way if your eyes are watering. And we'll take a little breath from there. Going to come up onto all fours, just untuck the toes and give them a little stretch out. So you can give them that little tap, tap, tap. And then I'm going to sit back directly on the heels, sitting tall, take the fingers behind, lift the knees away from the ground. And you can bring the hands onto the thighs, connect the core a little bit more and lift up out of the spine if you want to test your balance. But if you just want to work on stretching the tops of your feet out, that's fine. And then bringing the knees down to the ground, we come back onto all fours. We'll tuck the toes underneath, give them a little shake out again. And then we'll move into Superman pose. So we're just going to take the toes of the left foot underneath and slide the heel back. Now, as you do, try not to lean back into the knee. You want to keep the knee over the hip or the hip over the knee, which way we're facing. And we're pressing out through the heel. And as you press out through the heel, you start to feel your belly draw in. We're going to see if we can press down into the shin and lift that foot gently off the floor to about the height of the hip. So coming up nice and slowly to keep the hips aligned and over the center line. Still trying to press out through the heel to keep a very straight leg. And then And we'll use that foot to the floor, bring the knee back in, line them up carefully. Take a moment as you tuck the toes on the right foot underneath and slide back. Again, just being careful not to move around on that knee. You want to make sure that you stay directly underneath the hip. You might have to move around a couple of times. Pressing out through the heel, leg gets longer, and then it's a slow exhale to draw the leg high. So it's a nice steady position, hopefully. You've got one shin pressing into the ground, two hands. So we're lifting away from the floor a little bit with the chest, belly's drawn in. And we'll leave that foot and then the knee back down to the floor, and we'll start cat-cow. So just drawing the chest forwards, rolling the shoulders back a little bit, tucking the tailbone, letting the head drop as we draw the belly in and in the spine. Inhale forwards, tucking the tailbone, rolling out. Coming through and forwards, drawing the belly in, exhaling around. Couple more. Come into neutral. Tuck the toes underneath, lift the knees just off the floor, and then start to press the hips back and let them lift up. We can step it out into a more natural stance of down dog if that's needed. And we can let that down dog walk out a little bit from side to side, so bending one knee at a time. Seeing how that feels. Taking notice of how the lower back feels, shoulders, down the side of the body. And then maybe taking a little moment to be steady in the pose, moving the heels towards the back of the mat. We'll ease ourselves forwards into a plank, roll over the toes. We're taking child's pose. We're going to take the narrow version and hands towards the toes, head to the floor. And then bring the hands forwards again. Let the head lift towards the front of the mat. We'll come back into that down dog. And let's see if we can take what they call a down dog wave or a plank wave. So we'll bend the knees, be on the tippy toes, and then roll the spine up towards the floor and move forward into a plank position. Now the hips stay as high as the shoulders. And then push back into your down dog. Allow yourself to lift up on the tippy toes. Bend the knees, draw the belly in, round the spine as you exhale and draw yourself forwards into that plank. And then ease our way back. Once you've done that, we're going to take the left leg high Going to keep the hips square to the body, so the toes point directly down to the floor. We press out through the heel, that straight leg. We try and keep the shoulders and the hips square to the ground. And then we'll hinge that foot gently back down to the floor. We'll do the same with the right side, lifting up. So we're trying to find a position where we think the heel and the hip and the shoulders and the hands are in a nice line. That's what we're looking for. I'm trying to keep the bottom leg square and flex so it doesn't roll out to the side. Pressing the heel towards the back of the mat, stretching out the back of the leg, and then hinging again to bring the foot down to the floor. We'll take a little breath from here, pull the hands in towards the toes. So finding ourselves at the back of the mat. Hopefully the feet are still roughly hip distance apart and parallel, and then we're just going to fold down. So you can keep the fingers on the floor, or if you want to, you can just take hold of the elbows and make a little cradle. Rest the head, let the ribs sit on the thighs. Try and let the toes be relaxed and soft. And bring the hands to the floor. Lift up halfway, just bring the hands onto the shins, lengthen the body out. Take a breath here, soften the knees a little bit, bring the hands onto the hips, let ourselves lift the rest of the way up. We'll take the hands wide, zigzag the toes in towards the center line, bring the hands through the heart, sit down into chair pose, so squeeze the thighs together a little bit. And then we'll lift and just shake out the arms and the legs a little bit as we walk up towards the front of the mat. We'll start with the feet hip distance apart. We'll take the arms high and fold down into that forward fold. And we'll take the left foot to the back of the mat. And then from where your front foot is, just move it out to the side another inch or so. We'll take a little breath from there and bring the hands onto that front thigh to lift ourselves up. You want to try and get this right hip as low down as you can, so you're going to stretch the back foot a bit further away. And you want to make sure that the front knee is over the ankle. We'll take the hands out to the side. You can take them out all the way to shoulder height if that feels more like a balance for you. And then we're slowly just going to straighten the front leg and the back leg to lift up. And then we'll sink back down again. So you're going to get a definite bend in the front leg, maybe a little bit of a bend in the back leg. Trying to get to two straight legs. Ease our way down. Keeping the body as best we can vertical. Coming down again. And then the last time lifting up. As straight as we can. Knee comes down, we lean forwards, bring the hands to the floor. Just move the foot back into a normal place. Step ourselves forwards. Hands onto the hips, long spine lift up. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. Exhale. Taking the right foot back and then walking the left foot off a little bit further again. Learn ourselves to get nice and low with the hip. Check the knees over the ankle, bring the hands onto the front thigh to lift up slowly. And then hands to the side or out a little wider. And take a breath. Straighten both legs as you exhale. Ease your way down to the starting position. Be careful not to come lower than that. And bring the hands to the floor. Take a little breath. Step into the front of the mat. We're going to let ourselves hang. I'm just going to bring the toes together very gently, zigzagging them in. Now, if you have got the bricks towards the front of the mat, you can place the hands on the bricks and then let the hips lift a little higher so the back of the legs open out. If you don't need the blocks or bricks, that's fine. But they're there for a little bit of assistance and balance. It's quite nice to feel the palms flat against something, and it's, for most of us, difficult to get our palms flat to the floor with straight legs. So we'll come up onto the fingertips, halfway, soften the knees a touch, bring the hands onto the hips, keep the spine long to lift up. And take the feet out, hip distance apart again. Inhale high, hands through the hearts. Exhale down low to the floor. We'll step back with the right foot to the back of the mat into a deep lunge. Just press out through the heels and beyond the fingertips. Chest lifted a little bit. And then we'll bring the hands to the floor, step back into the plank. Take a little breath here. Bring the knees down to the floor. Now sit back down onto the heels. Toes are untucked. Head comes all the way to the ground. On the inhale, we're going to lift back up onto all fours to a round back and draw the chest forwards, like we're doing cat-cow. And then moving back into child's pose. And lifting up. Chest forwards. Exhale back. Inhale up. And back. And last time. We'll just come back into neutral with the spine. Take a little breath from there. Tuck the toes underneath. Let's move ourselves into our down dog. We'll draw the right knee in towards the chest. Give a little squeeze. Come up on the tippy toe. And then bring the foot through. So we're on the lunge on the second side. So fingertips again, pressing out. And then pushing off the toes into the forward fold. Hands on the hips to the left. We inhale high. And down to the floor. Left foot back this time. Press out through that heel. You should start to feel the abdominal muscles drawing a little bit. And bring the hands to the floor. We'll step into the plank. knees to the ground. Allow ourselves to sit back down onto the heels, onto the toes. Inhale up. Come forwards with the chest. Roll the spine out, draw the belly in, exhale back, press into the hands a little. Inhale up. Try and let the shoulders roll back. So sitting down for the last time. Inhaling forwards, letting the chest lead into neutral. We draw the belly in, tuck the toes underneath, and move back into our down dog. Draw the left knee in, come up on the tippy toe, bring the foot through into the lunge. On the fingertips, press out through that back heel. And push off the toes. Forward fold. Hands to the hips and we lift. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. We're going to exhale down to the floor. Right foot lunge to the back of the mat. Drop the heel in, bring the hands onto the front thigh and open up into warrior twos. Now we'll take the hands above the head, turn the chest and hips, spin the back heel, and this time we're going to drop the knee down towards the floor but not quite touch. Come back to that starting point, back down, and 3, and 4, and 5. Bring the hands out to the side and down to the floor. We step back into plank. We're going to take a half plank. Turn the toes for up dog. Lift the hips high, down dog. Come up on the tiptoes, draw the right knee in, bring the foot through to lunge, and then press off the toes to the front of the mat. We'll lift up, breath in, hands through the heart. Exhale, get used to that drawing of the belly in. Left foot back, drop the heel in, hands onto the front thigh. Heart will open into our warrior twos. Inhale the hands high. Rotate gently. Spin the back foot. Take a breath. Ease our way down. Lifting up. Exhale. And down for 3. Keeping the belly drawn in. And 4. And 5. As we lift, the hands go wide, moving forwards, down to the floor, step into the plank, push forwards for the half, ribs and elbows meet, the laces change, and then we float back into our down dog. the tippy toe. Left knee in, through to the lunge. Take a little breath. Press out through the back into that forward fold lift. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. Exhaling down to the floor. So we're taking the left foot back this time. Bring the heel onto the ground. We'll lift up into our warrior two. Then we're going to drop the front hip and lengthen out a little bit. Ready for that side angle. We're going to take the top arm up towards the sky. And we're just going to lift the front heel off the floor. So you're going to try and lift your body up away from that thigh. The arm is just pressing in gently. The top arm reaches up towards the ceiling. One more breath. Ease the heel down as you exhale. Bring the hand down onto both hands onto the inside. Take a little breath. Now spin the back heel towards the sky. So we're in lizard pose. And we're going to take a breath in. On the exhale, we're going to lift the hips up. Let the head drop. Straighten the front leg a little bit. And come back in. So we're not quite doing a monkey flow. This is more of a lopsided lizard pulse. So lifting up, draw the belly in, let the legs straighten out as much as they can. Keeping the hands on the floor, so depending on the mechanics of legs and arms, the leg will only get so straight. Come up a last time. Sink into the front knee, walk the fingers around to the long side, turning the toes in. Taking a little pause here with our paws on the floor. Toes pointing in, nice long flat back. Squeeze the thighs together just a fraction. Find the breath in the ribs. And then from here, we're going to hinge the hips forwards and over the thighs. Try and keep the elbows relatively shoulder distance apart. Let ourselves hang. Last breath. Lift up onto the fingertips. And walk the fingers around to the long end of the mat. Take a little breath. Step into the forward fold. Bring the hands onto the hips. And let ourselves lift up. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. Exhale down. Right foot back. Drop the heel in. Bring the hands onto that front thigh tuck. Open into our warrior twos. So just take a little time to adjust. And then when you're ready, sink into that front hip and lengthen. Bring the forearm down, check your knee position. Top hand towards the sky, stretch up, and then try and lift the heel away from the floor. One last breath. As you exhale, let the heel come down. Bring both hands down onto the inside. Spin the back heel up towards the sky. Take a little breath. And then we pulse up. Coming forwards. Pulse it up. Come forwards. Pulse it up. Draw the belly in. lengthen the chest forwards as you look a little more towards the front of the mat. We'll take one more lift to the sky. And then as we drop back in, walk the fingers around to the long side of the mat again, turning the toes in. Again, we're just going to sit on the fingers just to give ourselves a little bit of respite. Now you can either do the same as we did before, which was just to fold the hips over the thighs, or if you want to, you can take one hand behind the back and just bring the forearm across the body. You're going to bring the other arm over and see if you can get an elbow into each hand. So that opens up the chest a little bit more, and then fold down. So trying to draw the shoulders back a little bit if you're holding onto the elbows. Keep lifting the hips up, belly drawn in, feet pressing firmly down. And then we'll release the hands to the floor if you've taken that second version. We'll lift up onto the fingertips again and lengthen the body. We can walk the fingers around into the long side of the mat. Take a little breath, push off the toes into our forward fold. Hands onto the hips and a gentle lift. Take the hands high on the breath in. Bring your hands in towards the heart. Interlace the fingers as the index finger point up towards the sky. Let yourself close your eyes. Now slowly wiggle and zigzag the toes back in until they feel like they're touching. You have a little bit of a gap for the heels. Allow yourself to spread your toes and your feet. So a lot of work that the legs have done, we've stretched them out lots of different ways. We just need to ground ourselves a little bit before we start taking warrior threes. We'll bring the hands down to the floor, float high. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Going to exhale down towards the floor. And step back into a plank. Let the knees come down to the floor. Take a little breath. Just swing the feet out to the side. Sit gently back down onto my bottom. Take the legs out in front. Coming into Dandasana. So heels are together, toes are together, and flex back, lengthening out through the legs. Shoulders are nice and broad. Belly's drawn in. Now we're going to carefully draw the right foot in towards the body and take your right hand underneath the calf and the shin. And just bring your leg across so that your shin is behind your left knee. And then flex your right foot back towards your right knee as best you can. Bring the hands behind a little bit so you can lean back. And slowly draw the left sole of the foot in. So we're coming into seated figure 4. I'm going to try and roll the chest back up towards the sky. Shoulders squeeze a little bit. See how that feels. Now, if that feels comfortable and you want to take it a little further, you can just travel your bottom further forwards, walk the hands in a little bit, but then remember to re-emphasize drawing the belly in and lifting the chest and the shoulders squeezing back. And we'll release and we'll take that to the second side. So just lengthen the legs out. Draw the left leg in, hand underneath the shin. We take a little time to make sure we're in a safe space. You want to avoid pushing down directly on the patella. Flex the foot back, let that knee sink down. Hands come behind. We draw the sole of the foot for the first level. That's our marker. Just gives us a chance to let that left knee hang out to the side a little bit. And then if you want to take it a little further forward, you just walk it in and reset chest and shoulders. Really work on drawing that foot flexion, toes towards knees. And then we'll release from there. Going to just take the legs out, cross them over, bring the heels underneath, roll onto the shins and come up onto all fours and move myself into a down dog. From here, I'll walk in the fingers in towards the toes, zigzag the feet back into the center. Again, that little gap for the heels, hands onto the hips, soft knees, flat back to the lift. I'm going to take the hands above the head this time, interlace the hands, index finger points up. Let the hips move backwards as I take a little back bend. So I'm going to open the heart up, take the shoulders back, and the hands towards the back of the mat. Remember to breathe. Try and lengthen the arms higher. Press down into the feet. Keep the belly drawn in. Come back into the center. We'll take it to a side bend over to the right. Come back center, over to the left. Lengthen the body. Press into the right foot as you lean out to the left. Come back into the center. Arms drop down by the side. Hands come onto the shins. As you lean forwards, down to the floor gently, walking the fingers up into that down dog position. So this is where our bricks will come in handy. We're going to take a little breath here and draw the left knee in towards the chest and bring the foot through. Lift the bricks up onto a higher level and then take a little breath, press off the back toes and lift ourselves into a nice T position. So we're trying to keep the back leg as straight as we can and the toes pointing down. You can spread the toes out as well. Going to lift up the body so we get as upright as we can. I'm on the top of my blocks and then onto my knuckles. Pressing out through that back heel to keep the whole leg and the back strong. Then we'll soften the front knee just a fraction. Draw the right knee in towards the chest, around the spine a little bit. Place the foot down to the floor. Take a little breath from there. Move the bricks down a level. Step back with the left foot. So I'm into the lunge and then bring the bricks back up. There's a lot of moving up and down with those bricks today, I'm afraid. And take a little breath from here. Press off the toes on the back foot. And again, lift up. Come up as high as you can. So you really want the bricks to be about shoulder distance apart. Otherwise it starts to affect how you move. You want to try and keep the hips. So you're thinking about the front hip bones being the same distance from the floor. And a straight leg, you press out through the heel. Bottom leg, you press out through. Try and keep the head in line more or less with the body. And the belly drawn in. Just got a few more breaths. And then we'll draw that left knee in, just to soften the right a little as you do. Place the foot to the floor. Lengthen the chest out. Soften the knees just a fraction as you bring your hands onto the hips and let yourself lift up. Ooh, shake it all out. So we're going to be a little bit more ambitious. We're going to come from the front of the mat. We're going to move into eagle pose. Unwrap into warrior 3. Soften the front knee. Bring the hands back down to the floor. Oh yeah, warrior 3's hands into the chest. Forgot that bit. Soften the front knee. Let the back foot down into the lunge. Then come up into warrior 2. Take a little breath and then come all the way back to the front of the mat. So, sounds easy, doesn't it? These are bricks where they are. Allow the feet to be a little bit distance apart, so not quite hip distance, but not touching, so somewhere in between the two. And take a little breath and soften the knees over the toes, bring the hands in towards your heart. We'll load into the left leg, right leg lifts, cross it over, wrap it around. Let the hands come out wide. We'll take the right arm across, left arm over the top, bend at the elbows. Gonna hold for 3 breaths. And then release, untangle the legs. Bring the hands in towards the heart as you draw the heel in towards your bottom. As you hinge forwards, you're going to lengthen that right leg out. Square the hips. I'm going to hold for 3 breaths. Soften the front knee. Let the foot come back into lunge. Drop the heel in. Open up into warrior 2. We'll take reverse warrior whilst we're here. Sounds fun. Back into warrior 2. Hands in towards the heart. Press forwards. Bring your hands to the ground. Take a little breath. Step it in. And this time we'll ragdoll out. So we'll soften the knees and let the ribs and thighs touch, head low, and then draw the belly in. Just roll the spine out. Coming back high. Shake it all out a little bit. So again, just finding that place for the feet, little narrow stance. Hands in towards the heart. We load into the right leg this time. Soften the knee. Left leg lifts, crosses over, wraps around, arms out wide. And so the left arm is first, right arm over the top. Bring the palms together, 3 breaths. Release the arms out. Draw the knee up a little bit higher. Hands coming towards the heart. Soft front knee. You start to lay that left leg back. Soften the front knee, plant the back foot, heel in, open out into warrior two. Reverse warrior. Back into warrior two, hands to the heart. Exhale the hands away. Hands come to the floor. Stepping it back in. Soften the knees. Ribs down on the sides for ragdoll. And exhale it back up. Inhale, hands high. We come down to the floor. And as we arrive, we're just going to take the block and put that behind the back of the heels, lifting up, and then turning the toes out, squatting down. You can bring the hands in towards the heart. Try and use those elbows to lengthen the legs out a little bit to the side. Now you're going to take the hands apart, bring the fingers to the floor, walk the left hand out, plant the palm onto the ground. So lean a little bit, and pressing that arm and thigh together. And I'm going to twist open, take the right hand out to the side and high. Let my eyes follow that hand. Try and open the chest up. Bring the hands back into the center. Fingers to the floor. Walk out to the right a little bit. Get that little lean. Press the arm and the leg together. Open the chest. Try and relax the shoulders in this pose. It's not the easiest request to make, but the idea is to try and lift the chest and open it up. The more you do that, the easier it is to soften off the shoulders. It's kind of bizarre, but lifting your chest up and getting the spine longer out to the side would help open the shoulders up, but it does. Bring the hands back down to the floor. Take a little breath. Now we're going to move that block a little bit further back so that I can sit on that. Take the legs out in front. We'll take a little seated twist. So we'll bring the right foot underneath and the left leg across. Wrap the right arm up towards the sky and around into the twist. Try and sit up tall again. So be careful that the pelvis doesn't sort of drop back. You want to try and push that lower back forwards a little bit. Not got hiccups. Not good. And we'll release. Take a second sigh. Get settled. Lift the left arm, rotate round. Draw that pelvis into a neutral plane, which generally means you have to move the front hips forwards a little bit. And then release. So both legs out in front. We'll take Janu Shirshasana, so we'll draw the left heel in, knee down to the floor. If it doesn't, you can move the block underneath. Allow yourself to get a little bit of a lift. Hands onto the shin, will lift up. Fold over the thigh, keeping the body long. And then slide the hands down the ankle towards the heel. And let the head and the shoulders drop down as well. And then the only thing I ask is that the toes point up towards the sky and not out to the side. And keep a bend in the knee. So the ribs and the thighs are very close towards each other, if not touching. Last breath. Use the hands to come back and push away from the floor. We'll take that to the second side. Lifting up. Folding up and over. Starting to slide the hands down the heel. And bring the hands to the ground to lift back up. And we'll make our way down to the floor. So I'm going to use the block behind just for my head. I'm going to take a final spinal twist. So I'm going to take the knees high and the feet wide for this one. Arms out wide, head on the block. And you can let the legs drift over towards my left side. Try and lengthen the hips away a little bit. Turn the head towards the right if it feels good. And lift again. Adjust those legs if you need to, and roll over to the second side. And we'll draw the knees high again. Now, if you still need to challenge yourself, you can have a little happy baby, or you can bring your hands down by the side of your body, palms face up, and just slide a heel out to the corner edges of the mat. Just being careful of the bricks. And then wriggle the spine out a little bit. If you are taking happy baby, take about 5 to 10 breaths and then bring yourself into Shavasana. Start to stretch those fingers and toes. Moving the ankles and the wrists. Breathing a little deeper into the ribs. You can use that energy to stretch in any way that feels good. And then begin to ease the legs in towards the body, one leg at a time. A final hug. Stir in the hips, whatever feels good. And then we'll all gently roll onto our right side and use our hands to press into the floor. To lift away from the ground gently. Coming back into our seated posture. Sitting tall, rolling the shoulders back a little bit. Bring the hands into heart. The breath coming into the body. We start to gently exhale, lowering the chin. Drawing the belly to the spine, we bow carefully to the floor. Sealing our practice for the morning. Breath in lifts the spine. The head follows, the eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me. I feel too blissed out to move.